My first question is why now?
We've hit a point where the space economy has progressed enough where we think we can economically mine the resources of the universe at a price point that makes sense. And I think that's the biggest deal is that it has to hit an economic threshold that drives a value into it.
Why start an asteroid company now when there have been companies in the past that haven't succeeded?
It's because that the first time in human history, high energy launch is available for a lower cost. And that's really the end all be all.
So, welcome back to another episode. I'm here with the CEO of AstroForge and the star of Deep Impact 2, Matt Gailich.
That's right.
So, let's talk asteroid mining. All right. My first question is why now?
We've hit a point where the space economy has progressed enough where we think we can economically mine the resources of the universe at a price point that makes sense. And I think that's the biggest deal is that it has to hit an economic threshold that drives a value into it. We look at one specific material for asteroid mining, which is the platinum group metals. And when you look at these mines on Earth, what you'll notice is they're all extremely deep. The mines in South Africa are up to 2,000 meters deep. It's extremely expensive to extract this really low grade ore and then turn it into the platinum grade metals. And we keep looking deeper. We keep looking at, how can we mine deeper? How can we do this? But the price keeps going up. And the price is so high at this point that it actually becomes an economic decision. Instead of looking down, we think it's time to look the other direction. And that's kind of the core of why we started the company.
That's the thesis of the company, and I totally get it. But specifically talking to the economics of why start an asteroid company now when there have been companies in the past that haven't succeeded?
It's because that the first time in human history, high energy launch is available for a lower cost. And that's really the end all be all. Platinum, when we talk about previous companies like Planetary Resources or Deep Space Industries, if you wanted to go to deep space in even 2010, you really had two choices, a Delta 4 or an Atlas 5. Both of those are going to cost you about 450 million bucks to get to deep space. That's just a price point that doesn't make any sense to actually go economically do this. If you look at it, you're probably going to have price parity to your launch cost to what your satellite costs. So you're now looking at one of these companies needing about $900 million, let's just round up to $1 billion to access an asteroid and mine it. So they got to bring back at least $1 billion of material. And like, that's a lot of down mass that they got to bring back. It's actually really
Yeah.
hard to bring back that much material. And it just starts to all not make sense, right? Um, for us, those unit economics are very different, and they're really underwritten by NASA. NASA did the CLIPS missions. These are the lunar landers you've probably seen. Firefly has one, Intuitive Machines has one, Astrobotic has one, right? That are going to go and land on the moon. And what they offer us for the first time is rideshare to deep space. Now, mathematically, it's very complicated. It takes a lot of effort. There's a whole story behind how we figured out the math to this. But by being underneath them, we can get much cheaper really high reliability missions on a Falcon
Hmm.
9 to go access the cosmos, and that's what we did for Odin, right? We were
Hmm.
underneath the Athena lander, and, we will be on IM-3 doing the same thing, with Vestry as we
Hmm.
go towards the moon.
And it was $400 million to buy launch, and it was almost the same to make the spacecraft for Planetary Resources or Deep Space Industries back in the day. What's changed about the manufacturing of a spacecraft today that you could potentially do it for cheaper? And you famously written articles about how cheap it was to make Odin and Vestry compared to back in the day.
Yeah, well, let's be clear, Odin didn't work, so maybe it was too cheap, but, I think what's important here is there's a build versus buy decision that has really swinged a different direction, for really the first time we have the option, like, I can go buy reaction wheels, I don't have to make them from nothing, I can go buy radios, I can go buy pretty much every piece of the spacecraft, I can just go buy, and obviously, we're not gonna do that for everything, we do build a lot in-house, you hear this kind of fictitious vertical integration word used all the time. But for us, it is a lot about, like, I can buy reaction wheels from Rocket Lab. I now know don't need to do the research, the development, the testing. I can just buy them and hope they work. And I can do this for a lot of things. It's really driven down the cost of
Mhm.
spacecraft dramatically, to where we can get to something on Vestry. Total cost for Vestry is $4.5 million. I mean, that's my cost, right? That's how much it's costing me to build that spacecraft. That's a price point revolution in what we've seen in a deep space mission. I mean, you look at missions like Psyche, OSIRIS-REx, the Hayabusa missions, uh, go look at Europa Clipper. Europa Clipper is a $5.5 billion mission.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. We wanna be orders of magnitude less.
And is that because those missions have to work?
I mean, let's be honest about it, yes. When you look at these missions, these are high reliability, much larger spacecraft that can fly a lot longer in space, that have a whole bunch of it's a very different ball game they're playing. They're playing a science ball game, right? They wanna make sure the science works, and You go look at these very, like, esoteric instruments that cost $20 million a piece and give you, like, this direct spectral reading on
Yeah.
this thing and whatever, and it's all really cool shit, and I love it all. But when you remove all the science and you look at the engineering behind the spacecraft buses themselves, that's what we can go figure out, and that's what we can really drive the price on a lot cheaper, especially when you start to add volume into the equation.
So let's dive into the mining of the asteroids itself. What kind of asteroids do we want to select? Why do we want to select those asteroids? And how does that relate to the economics here on Earth?
Yeah, we wanna go after a very specific type of asteroid. I mean, there's a lot of details here to go into, but we want to go after an asteroid that is essentially a ball of iron. They're referred to as metallic asteroids or M-type asteroids. Um, we think they're probably on the range of anywhere from 3 to 5% of the total near-Earth asteroid population that we want to go after. Now keep in mind, we're also going after near-Earth asteroids. Big clarification here because
Hmm.
people, I think this wrong all the time. We think of asteroids as, like, in the asteroid belt, which is where most of them are, right? But the asteroid belt is a long journey. I mean, to do a round trip to the asteroid belt, you're talking something like 15 to 20 years. It's not a realistic timeline for me to send a mission to. We're going to go to these asteroids to us that are gonna be within 20 million miles of the planet. So, yeah, that's really far when you think about 20 million miles, but
That's
also to
a
put it,
hundred times the distance to the moon.
it's about, no, the distance to the moon's about, I'm sorry, yes, it's about 100 times the distance to
Yeah.
the moon. Um, so it's far, but it's not that far,
Yeah.
right? It's what, like, I'm trying to do math in my head and stalling at it. It's like 1/6 of the way to Mars. It's not
Hmm.
that far when you think about the grand scale of the universe. But it's where we hope to find these very specific balls of iron nickel that have extremely high grades of the platinum group metals on them. Um, and that's the real key to this. It's not about where they are, it's about the ore quality. The ore quality on these is anywhere from 5 to 100,000 times better than the ore quality of the best ore mine or best platinum group metal mines we have on Earth. That's what makes them so fucking lucrative. If these were just balls of iron in the sky or rocks, like, we have that on Earth. They gotta be special, and what we think these are is the core of a dead planet or planetoid at some point from the slow cooling that allows the heavy elements to condense into them, and, so we actually think the core of our planet has really high grades of the platinum group metals. It's
Yeah.
awesome. I just don't know how to get to the fucking core. If I did, I'd probably just go mine the core of the Earth, right? But, like,
Yeah.
we don't actually know how to access that, so we need to go upwards and mine asteroids.
The ores right now you mentioned, where the mining actually happens, is a pretty brutal environment for humans to be in,
I mean, the
and
mine,
and
yeah.
machines.
The mine in South Africa, right, is about, anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 meters underground. It's hot as hell. It's very dangerous. About 200 people die a year mining platinum group metals. You have 3% of global emissions are caused by mining platinum group metals.
Hmm.
You see things like 50 to 70 million tons of water wasted that it just becomes wastewater mining platinum group. The shit is not nice. It's
Hmm.
not a great thing to do, but the option you have right now is, do you want to be a caveman or do you want to have technology?
Right.
And, like, I'm talking to you on this mic, like, we clearly have chosen technology. I'm not gonna pretend like we're better than everybody else in this way. Like, we've chosen to say, "Yeah, it's actually acceptable that we pollute our planet in this way and cause this water pollution, and people are gonna die so that we can have the technology we have," and we make that decision across all these other mediums that we look at in life. I wanna add a 3rd option, which is, you don't have to be a caveman, you don't have to kill people, you can go to space and mine, and I think that revolutionizes the way we think about utilizing resources on the planet,
Hmm.
and it also can make a lot of economical sense to go do. We think we can increase the margins of mines from what ended up being about 15% to upwards of 80%.
Oh wow.
And that's a revolutionary difference in the way you mine and the way you think about resource allocation on the planet.
And what is the economics of platinum today, and how does that compare to the economics of how that would change if you were to bring back?
I mean, we could talk about it. There's a ton of different ways to think about it. I'll talk about it in margins, right? So if you look at South Africa, the complex in South Africa's last reported margins were 14%.
Okay.
So when you couldn't include what's called the all-in sustaining cost in mining, right? They made 14% gross margins on the platinum they mined. It's not big margins, as you really look at it. We think, again, on the missions, on our demo missions. So this isn't even when I talk about, this isn't like me making up some bullshit about, like, oh, Starship and I launched 10,000 vehicles and blah, blah, blah. On a rideshare on a Falcon 9, we think our margins can be upwards north of 80%. And that is revolutionary in the way we think about mining. Go ahead and extrapolate that however you want. If we really, if Elon can really hit like $200 a kilogram on Starship, please hit that number, Elon. That'd be amazing. We essentially get to margins that are above 90%, and now you're just off to the races, creating a whole new world of how we look at the platinum group metal resources.
the market elasticity of platinum, you start to affect the supply demand curve around 11% of the overall revenue that's circulating in platinum.
Yeah, so it's really hard it's a little bit hard to quantify because when you talk about metals, there is the aspect of it being a store of wealth. So total store of wealth of platinum group metals is upwards of over a trillion and almost a trillion and a half dollars from what data we can find. But what I actually like to care about is the transacted on amount. So how much goes into use cases that are used to manufacture something.
Well, you're saying like store wealth is people like buy platinum like they buy gold.
Yeah, exactly. Gold, has a $15 trillion store of wealth.
Hmm.
And probably I don't know how much of that is gold bars in someone's safe,
Hmm.
jewelry, things like that,
Hmm.
that once you buy, you're not really using as a currency to transact on. But gold is also used in things like diode circuits, right? To make sure wires don't break and in electronics and blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of actual use cases for gold. Gold is also a good looking metal. Platinum is kind of not a good looking metal. It just looks like fucking silver. So,
But
like,
why is
why
it
not use
valued
silver?
higher than gold?
Its melting point's really high. It's got some really good use cases. It doesn't react with a lot of things, and other than that, I'm not a material engineer, so I have no fucking idea why. I don't care why either. I just know it's got a really high cost per ounce, and that's what we care about, right? Because it makes the unit economics of going to mine an asteroid work out really well. To be fair, gold works out really well too. Just don't have any great evidence to suggest we're going to find highly dense gold asteroids that we can actually refine economically enough. We do see some asteroids with higher gold than you're going to have in your backyard. That's all great, but not at a price point where I can actually extract that gold and bring it back to Earth and close that business case yet. So maybe there's a new refining technology we can discover. Maybe we're going to find a golden asteroid. But until that happens, platinum group metals is really the one where we see at the high ore densities and we know we can refine it in time to make the missions close.
Okay. Um, so we've established that we can bring back 60 million or so worth of platinum on the first few missions. What is the eventual goal? Like when we have a fleet of AstroForge robots.
The eventual goal is pretty simple. I don't want to mine our planet. It's one of the most destructive processes we do is dig these big ass holes in the ground to extract the resources out of this tiny rock we're on. We are going to have to solve that at some point in humanity's arc to make us successful. We're getting pretty close to it now, and the first threshold is going to be economic value, right? But economic value is driven off of supply and demand. And the reality is that the demand for platinum group metals has skyrocketed. It's used in computer chips, it's used in catalytic converters on cars, it's used in medical device, like it's used across all walks of our life. And the supply keeps getting deeper and deeper and harder to mine. Now, here's one thing. You'll hear people say like, "Well, we have enough of this on the earth to supply us forever." And they're not technically wrong. In fact, the core of the planet, we believe, has really high densities of platinum group metals too. But that's not actually the problem. We have no idea how to get to the core. So, you can make whatever argument you want, but in the crust of the earth, we don't have a lot of this stuff. We're not going to have a lot of this stuff. Just no geological process I'm aware of that replenishes it. We're going to have to start looking at the sky at some point in our history. If we want to advance our species past this planet, and I don't really care what vision you have of the future, whether it's multiplanetary, whether we start talking about Kardashev scales or different ways to harness energy or whatever, all of those things require more resources than we have on this little rock. Let's preserve the little rock we have today, make it so generations can live here, and go mine the things nobody cares about. I'm okay with polluting the shit out of an asteroid. Nobody's fucking on it.
Yeah. Um, in terms of your like primary customers, right? We were talking about customers a little bit. AstroForge is a very interesting space company that way, where it's not a B2G, business to government entity first. It's like B2C almost. Um, how do you think of when you bring back enough material? How do you think about your customers, and how do you plan to sell them?
Yeah, so for me, it was really important to start a space company that was commercially focused. And I know a lot of space companies are focused at the government, and there's a lot of probably smart, really smart people that think about it this way, and they make a lot of money. So I never want to talk shit about people going after the government dollar, but that dictates what you're going to go do. And a lot of time, this leads to products that don't really have a commercial use case, right? And so the government's great at starting projects. It's not great at commercializing products or turning them into anything. And so when we start talking about lunar rovers or space stations or all of this stuff as we go into it, it's all really cool. And I love that the government is continuing to pour money into these concepts and see them grow. But I find it really hard to see the use cases after that government runs dry or after we do that, right? And we saw this with Apollo. We saw 5% of our GDP go into the Saturn, into the moon landings, whether that was the rovers, the landers, the rockets, whatever. And as soon as we were done and we did it, whoop, it evaporated. And like the space economy kind of restarted, right? Very slowly, we went to this boring ass space shuttle and went through. I didn't want to pin the company off that. I really wanted to say, like, what is something we can solve that is a problem today on Earth that has commercial use cases? And to me, that's simply mining. So we sell directly to what are called final refineries. So quite a few of them. And what they do is they essentially take what is called a doré bar in the mining industry, what I will call shitty material, right? It's material that's like above a certain ore grade. It's really high densities of platinum group metals, but we're gonna have them all mixed together and like they're not gonna be pretty. And they will take them and put them into platinum bars, stamp it, and sell them on the spot market. And, they will take about on average, about 1% of our total cost to make that happen. So, we already have those contracts in place with finals refineries, like, this is the fun thing about a company like this, we have actually billions of dollars in contracts already signed. That's great. It just requires to give you billions of dollars in platinum, and then you give me billions of dollars back. So, like, the burden's on us to show we can do it. I think the magic with AstroForge is there is 0 market risk for this company. Like, it is all technical risk. Nobody doubts that if we could pull it off, there's a huge market here to be had. The thing we gotta focus on is can we fucking do it?
Yeah, in a way, the ore companies or the refineries don't really care where they're getting their ore from. They can get it from space or they can get it from the earth, and you're just saying, "Let's go get it from space."
Yeah. It is some funny conversations though when you call up some of these guys and they're like, in Oklahoma and you're like, "Okay, hear me out, dude. I'm gonna mine an asteroid and I wanna drop the stuff up at your door." And they're like, are you high?" And I'm like, "Kind of, but no, like, hold on.
We're
Listen,
in
hear me out.
California.
Hear me out." It's just always funny conversations to have, right? And it takes a while, but actually some of them have become, really awesome supporters of the company and, have come by it and check it out and, like, just are kind of blown away to see that something like this is trying to exist in the world.
Yeah, I draw the same analogy of like what Varda is doing with like pharmaceuticals, right? Pharmaceutical companies don't care where they make their formulation in, but if you can make it in space and bring it back down, great.
Especially if you can only make it in space and bring it back down. I think that's really what Varda's play is, right? Is to have that unique positioning where constructing a crystalline structure of drugs in zero G is really beneficial for whatever drug they're doing. Like now they have a monopoly on it. It's the same way we look at space. I actually think that if we can do this and mine the universe, we actually create a mining monopoly where I hope in the future platinum group metal is actually banned from being mined on the surface of the planet. Um, and we give the world an alternative.
Sounds like a win-win.
Sounds like a really, really win-win for me.
Yeah.
Hopefully for the world as well.
Okay. Speaking of technical risk, what is your map of how the evolution of each satellite goes for AstroForge from Odin to Vestry and beyond?
I'll talk about Odin and Vestry. I don't really want to go into beyond, but Odin's the mission of Odin was number one to let me take a step back. I started the company with a thesis. We all start companies with a thesis of what we're going to go do, and usually that thesis is wrong, but we try to go figure it out, and you either pivot as a company or you don't. And so the thesis of AstroForge at the beginning was the spacecraft bus is a commodity. There's a whole bunch of companies out there making spacecraft buses. In fact, some of them are really starting to think about manufacturing. You look at a company like Apex that's trying to just stamp out spacecraft buses at a high rate. Why the fuck am I reinventing the wheel? Just like we talked about build versus buy, I thought the build versus buy decision on leaned to me just buying the entire spacecraft and really focusing the technology development of AstroForge on a couple fronts. Number one was deep space navigation. Number two was the ability to refine the asteroid, right? Some of these things that I knew, like if I go buy a bus, they're not going to make a camera or know how to navigate in deep space. I'm gonna have to learn that, but I can go buy them. Well, we bought a bus from a company, and what they delivered me was fucking terrible. And so what I learned very quickly is like, cool. Number one, I should have bought it from a company here because I think I would have had better luck. But number two is that incentive alignment matters a lot. And you're never going to have incentive alignment from a bus company trying to sell to me on an individual cadence, especially when I'm going to be one or two off to go mine an asteroid. So we had to make a decision really quick. And that decision was pull it in and actually go build Odin itself. So we built Odin. I mean, to be honest with you, we built Odin in 8 months. That's a really stupid timeline. That's not a timeline that's good for anybody, especially for a deep space mission. I don't care if you're just using it as a model. Like that's extremely fast. And this is everything. We wrote all the software. We built the flight computers. Like we went all in and built it in 8 months. It was 24/7, 365 to figure out if we could do this. And the fact that we even launched that fucking thing is kind of a mini miracle, right? But Odin was going to be a pathfinder. We wanted to see number one how to build a deep spacecraft, how to operate in deep space, The biggest check mark I wanted to hit, though, was to figure out how to navigate in deep space. No commercial company has ever navigated in deep space successfully. It's a really difficult thing to do. You're going extremely far from the planet. You got to figure out where you are so you can point your little dishes at it to hear from that thing and know how to do your burns and things like this. It's very difficult.
And
And
you
then
don't make your dishes, right? You rent them.
I cannot make them. They're huge. These are big dishes. I mean, the dishes we were using were India, which is a 32-meter dish, and Sansa, which is a 23-meter dish. I mean, these are fucking massive dishes. I can't afford to build them. I have to rent them, right? And we have to figure out that whole problem that goes into it. And I wanted Odin to make it to an asteroid to show it was M-type. That was what we hoped to do a flyby, take a picture, have a nice, pretty picture of a metal asteroid, and be like, "Fuck yeah, we found our metal asteroid. We know which one we're going to." Obviously, Odin didn't go as well as we would have hoped. We made it about the last communication we got with Odin was 825,000 kilometers away from the planet. We were able to successfully navigate. From an engineering standpoint, we actually learned a ton on Odin and proved out a whole bunch of things on Odin. But like at the end of the day, we didn't make it to fucking asteroid. So it doesn't matter. And to the outside world, I could sit here and be like, oh yeah, we were able to figure out our OPM and all that, and everyone's like, I don't know what any of these words mean, dude. Cool. It didn't make it to the asteroid. Vestry's mission is to go to an asteroid and land on it. Vestry steps up in size. So Odin was 100 kilograms. Vestry's 200 kilograms. It's a much bigger spacecraft. It now switches propulsion mechanisms from instantaneous thrust, the normal rocket engine that you would think of, um, to EP. So we're using Hall effect thrusters, right, to go out. This will only be the second deep space mission ever with Hall effect thrusters. The first is the Psyche mission, and we want to go on and show we can land on this thing. So that means not only getting to the asteroid, but slowing down and finding it and attaching to it and doing some good science on it to show that it has platinum group metals on it. And that's what we're fully focused on right now, right? That's the spacecraft that we are building in house. It's a ton of fun to build, but it's a lot of fucking work. I mean, 24/7, we're a small team and we all are dedicated to seeing this mission be successful.
Mhm. Before we jump into Vestry some more, what happened on Odin? Talk about what happened.
I think what happened on Otis is the solar panels didn't open. I mean, now why the solar panels didn't open? It's either that the mechanism that was going to release it, the shape metal alloy, failed, um, or which those things are finicky. We had some problems during tests with them with the pretty much the way they're installed is really, really detailed.
French bolts?
No, they're shape metal alloys, so you put a current in them and they change the way they're formed and they release it to go out. Or the power system, right? Itself failed
Mm,
to do it. Now, the thing is, we'll never know the true answer. We did a lot of analysis. We think we know what happened. The reality is, we changed the whole power system because of one of the possible failure modes that could have happened. Not sure if it was correct or not. But the spacecraft essentially never became power positive.
mhm.
And the bigger problem there is that the first pass we had over Australia, we had a problem with the dish, so we didn't hear from it. So Odin could have been phoning home for 4 hours and telling us, "Hey, I'm fucked up." We could have.
Huh.
There was a whole list of procedures we had to try, but like the reality is, we didn't hear it. And it's those multiple failures in a row that really kill a mission. The fact that we got any communication signal from it is kind of a miracle and was really cool to see that like, hey,
Mhm.
we got something. And to get even that one, we got our first communication. I think it was like, don't quote me on this. I wrote this all down. You can go look this up on our blog post. I think it was like 93,000 kilometers away. And that message means that the spacecraft was on and power positive for 62 seconds because we actually can't start up the flight computers quicker than that and send and enable the radio and send a command down. So, and we know that we confirmed that was from Odin by looking at header packets and where it was. So we know that that happened, right? We know that at some points it did become power positive and turn on. So we didn't totally shit the bed on the power system. But like these things are really hard. And unlike
Mhm.
a low Earth orbiting vehicle where you can start to get optical images and that, like we pretty much got optical images for the first day, and then it's too far away, and then you just can't see anymore. And like you're like, hope I hear from you, right?
Yeah.
It's a very delicate, difficult mission to see what you can do. That's what makes it fucking fun.
Odin, the smallest spacecraft that's been out to deep space.
No, I mean there was one called Mars Co 1, right? There was a CubeSat that went to Mars. It was a six, I think it was a 6U CubeSat. Don't quote me on that, right? It was a very small vehicle. And I don't know if we want to say like the smallest spacecraft to go out to deep space. These definitions get a little wonky as we go out there, right? And so, like, what's commercial? What's not? What is a spacecraft? What's not? I mean, to be fair, there's a manhole cover that we believe is in deep space because it got blown off on an atomic bomb, right? Like, this is where does Elon's Tesla rank? Is that a mission or not? You know what I mean? There's all these different things that we got to go out there, and so, you draw some assumptions on how you think about these, but we are the first mission that is trying to operate in deep space for sure, from a commercial standpoint.
When you're building spacecraft so fast, you were already building Vestry as Odin was about to launch. How are you able to incorporate, failure lessons that you find out in space into a build that's already existing? How do you do that fast and in an economic way?
Yeah, this is one of the keys to how you gotta build a deep tech company, and I think this is where some people like Sam Altman have really, really shined. There is this perceived notion that you don't figure out anything and you don't bite down any risk until you launch a spacecraft into space, and so we have, like, this graph that looks like we learn nothing, and then all of a sudden we launch and, like, we burn down risk. That's not how aerospace works at all. Anybody that works in aerospace knows, like, you're building and you're like, oh, you go through a test, like, well, this fucking design sucks, but I'm already into it. We got to finish with it. Or this is suboptimal. Like, you learn so much as you're building up something to go through. Um, and those are the lessons we can apply right away. We knew that we had problems with our shape metal alloys, right? And we had a whole bunch of conversations with the vendor and reclocked them and actually went through a separate vibe test just to prove they worked. We knew going forward, like, we probably don't want to use that design. Our power system, I mean, we had a power system catch on fire because we had a shunt put on it, right? And like the way cool, we knew we needed to fix that as we went into it. Our solar panels, we had to buy them because we didn't have the time to manufacture them in-house, but we knew right away we wanted to make the panels larger. We wanted to make the panels large enough where if they didn't deploy, we could still be power positive and control the spacecraft. So, like, you have this whole laundry list of things that are going through. In fact, before we even launched Odin, I wrote a big ass article about all the stuff we fucked up on Odin that we weren't sure if it was going to work. I think the magic of startups is we get the option to still launch it even when we're unsure. And when you go to the government world and you have a NASA mission, NASA doesn't want to fail these missions. They will make the decision to delay. We didn't. We said, fuck it. I don't, cool. If it doesn't work, we've already learned about, let's go see what happens and let's go try because you don't find out. I don't find out about all the ground station problems if I don't try. I don't find out about what I can really get, Intuitive Machines, the Athena lander took some awesome pictures of our spacecraft as we departed. I don't understand those connections unless we go fly. Right? I don't understand what I'm gonna get from SpaceX unless I go fly. Like, there's something really special about doing it. And you just gotta fucking do it.
How do you balance the unit economics of like making these like I know you want to make them cheap. You already, building these for $4.5 million, balancing the unit economics and the risk. But how do you balance that unit economics with the outsized returns that you can potentially get with platinum? Because some other company might say like, oh, we are gonna get so many hundred millions of dollars, so we can spend more on our spacecraft and our make our spacecraft even better.
That's what's great about companies. You all gotta do a different thesis to go figure out if it works. And so if someone wants to come along and says, actually, I'm gonna spend 200 million, I'm gonna try to return $300 million in platinum. I'll give them some reasons why I think that is wrong. It primarily comes down to the down mass and heat shield sizing on return. But good for them, they get to go try it. I don't know if I'm right or not. That's the magic of going to do these. In fact, if you're gonna start a company that wants to go mine an asteroid and bring back $300 million, come by and I'll show you exactly how to build a spacecraft. Like, I think what's really important about this industry that we all pretend is real but isn't, is we hide behind ITAR and regulation and all this kind of stuff so much. Everybody is so fucking scared to say like, "Oh yeah, we kind of fucked this up or we did this wrong." I don't want to be. Like, this is the you get the raw look at how we build a spacecraft, what we fucked up, what we didn't, and how we went forward. So hopefully that helps the next iteration of space companies, even the current ones today, be like, "Oh, we had that same problem happen. Oh, we had that." You'd be amazed on all the articles I write of just like, "Here's the way we're doing everything." All these space companies have reached out and been like, "Oh, you had this problem. We had this problem too," or "We saw this," or "Have you thought about doing this?" I mean, there is a community here that really wants to share, and there's a, a company structure that is extremely scared of sharing the things that go into this, and I don't understand why. I think the objective of a company like mine is to go as fast as humanly fucking possible, take a lot of risk, and we got to get a little lucky. And if those stars align, you have one of the biggest companies ever created
You're open sourcing how to make a satellite, and I love it.
because
Uh,
it's not special.
yeah,
There's nothing special about what we're doing. We're building a spaceship. We're just trying to build it a lot fucking cheaper. Let me go show you how we
yeah.
do that.
I think that's the way the internet went, and it benefited so many companies, right? So I hope that this is the eventual outcome for the space companies for the space industry too. But going back to Vestry, what's new with Vestry? We talked about EPs, but what's the goals for Vestry? What is it going to achieve at the end of the day?
It's going to achieve landing on an asteroid and determining whether what the concentration of platinum group metals is on that asteroid. That is the goal of Vestry, right? That is what we
Mhm.
want to see it go do.
And in terms of the technical challenges you expect compared to Odin, what are let's dive into the actual aspects of what Vestry will do as it approaches the asteroid.
So here's what I mean. First off, we got to not fuck up getting to the asteroid. Let's be very clear about that. That is actually pretty difficult always because you're just going in deep space as a small spacecraft. We're 200 kilograms in the world of spacecraft that go in deep space. That's pretty small.
Mhm,
The other than Mars CubeSat, the
mhm,
next smallest spacecraft that performed missions in space was DART, and it was 610 kilograms. I believe that's the number somewhere around there,
mhm,
about 3 times the size.
mhm,
Well, there's a thermal mass issue when you're in deep space. Like, there's no eclipse. We don't go behind the Earth. We're not in sun. We're not doing this kind of barbecue roll to stabilize temperature. We're usually flying with EP in one direction. So thermal is a bitch. Like, it
mhm,
sucks and it drives a lot of our decisions we make. That's number one. Number two is we have to figure out how to model continuous thrust. Keep in mind, Psyche is the only mission that's modeled continuous thrust. Well, there is some electrospace thrusters that have done it, but in deep space, this is a very difficult thing to model, and we have to get it right and figure out how to do it correctly, right? So we got to make sure we model it correctly to get to the asteroid. Then we get to the asteroid, we got to land on it. And so we have to do proximity ops with the asteroid. Now, I actually think that part is pretty simple. It's like docking. We really understand how to dock with the ISS or with other bodies. This is not the moon. Thank God. The moon, you enter a gravity well on the moon and you're like, fucking hope you land upright
mhm,
because you're hitting the surface, right? That's not the case on the asteroid, right? Even at 400 meters, like the gravity is essentially zero.
mhm.
And so you have a whole bunch of scenarios where you can approach extremely slow and lightly touch the surface.
How fast are you going?
We aim to be at about zero point 0.1 meter per second when we touch the surface. So extremely slow. We build a spacecraft to handle about a meter per second of acceleration when we're hitting it.
It's going to be some sort of structure that crushes or something like that.
It's
When
actually just little tiny legs that stick out the back. If you go look at our model in the lobby, you'll see little tiny legs on the back, but they're not much. And it doesn't need to be much because you're just trying to attach yourself. The real trick here for us is it's a metal asteroid. It's iron and nickel. Um, we just stick to it with magnets. So it's nothing special. We don't have like some complicated gripping mechanism or lassoing. Like it's literally just magnetic sticking. And again, it's ideas like that that don't come from us. It's not like we're some, these come from the companies before us. I mean, that idea specifically comes from Planetary Resources, right? This is one of the concepts they looked at doing. And like borrowing from the past is how we make the future great. Like again, everything done here, spacecraft have been built. We know how to build Osiris-Rex. We know how to build the Psyche mission. We know how to build them very good and in failure modes that won't fail. Their economic proposition just doesn't work for us. So we have to start thinking a little different. It's very much how Falcon 1 was built. You were competing with a Delta IV. And, again, you come in with an order of magnitude less budget, an order of magnitude lower rocket cost, and probably an order of magnitude higher risk. And like you get a couple shots on goal. If you can make it work, you change the world.
yeah. Okay, and you're docked with the asteroid. How do you extract metal?
I'm not going to go into much detail about it. That is the one part of the company that I don't talk about a lot intentionally. The refinery to us is pretty proprietary on exactly how we do it. I will tell you that we do use a laser refining system. It's very similar to laser ablation of how we remove material from the asteroid, but I don't really want to go into more detail than that.
There have been a couple of other companies and flagship missions that have gone out to asteroids. Um, in the map of those missions, how do you see what you've learned from them and what lessons you can take and put into Vestry Plus?
Yeah, so I mean, let's go through them. Number one, there's one on its way right now, which is called Psyche Mission, and the PI for Psyche is someone named Lindy Elkins Tanton. She's at uh, Berkeley now. Lindy's been an advisor to us for a number of years and is extremely helpful with getting on a call with her and just saying like, "Hey, Lindy, I'm not a geologist. I actually have no idea what the fuck I'm looking at. Can you help me? Like, where do we go for this? How do we think about this? Is this assumption right or wrong? Do you believe this?" And like Lindy is probably one of these scientists that will go down in history 200 years from now, and people will really be like, "Wow, that was one of the greats," as we looked at it. She's exceptional, and having people like that that have built these missions that have gone through all those edge cases, but also have looked at a lot of the data coming out of telescopes to say like, "Oh, we think this is happening with Psyche 16, and we're going to correlate that data shortly." That all feeds directly into how we choose asteroids. People like Dante Loretto, who is the PI for the OSIRIS-REx mission. It's great to have somebody like that on our team that we can look at and just say like, "Hey, we're doing this. Does this trajectory make any fucking sense?" Or What's your concern with this? Like, you saw it on a $1 billion program. Was this an issue or not, right? I mean, to be clear, both of those people have been exceptional in helping us as we go through. But it also goes down to people like, you know, people that work at Planetary Resources. Chris Lewicki's been extremely helpful. Matt Beasley has been some of the most helpful when it comes to things like imagers and just, sometimes you talk to some of these guys and just say like, "Hey, this is what we're doing." And they're like, "Well, you're an idiot, and here's why." And like, they just saved you 2 years of development time or figuring that out for yourself as you go through. And those people are like, just so helpful in paving the way for us. So the missions before us, like, to be clear, we wouldn't be here without them. I think it's even that level of extreme. Like, AstroForge does not exist unless we know how to do these missions. We know how to go out there. We understand asteroids. We're looking at them, planetary defense missions, things like that. Like, all of this has to come before you can really take a shot at this.
What specific sets of data are you looking from, like, say, Psyche or any of these, I should say, are they trying to, refine their confidence in composition on these metal?
I mean, look, so what do I take from Psyche? Psyche's an EP mission. Psyche actually had a failure on the EP system recently, right? And so, like, we want to understand as much information as we can to, like, why'd that happen? How do we not? How do we make sure it doesn't happen, right? What are we missing on EP? How do we think about spacecraft design? I can go look at ASU. They have a giant ass model of Psyche. Like, go look at it. Those things are actually really helpful to point at it and say, like, oh, I kind of understand why they did this or why they did that. Cool. My spacecraft can't be this big. I can't launch it dedicated on a Falcon Heavy. So what am I willing to chop off? What am I not? And like, the fact that somebody's gone through all those trades and then you can relook at those trades and apply different criteria to them and get a different answers, it's hugely beneficial. You have to do the trade. And like, they've done a lot of that work for us.
Okay, let's talk out into the future. Don't have to give me the specific details of what's gonna happen after Vestry, but, if you look at this company 10 years from now, do you think you'd wanna be launching fleets of mining robots on a dedicated Falcon 9 launch, or is it going to be a Starship-sized vehicle, or is it some set?
I think that you get the speed and execution through iteration. And so I think that staying small and building at volume is actually the key. The reason a car costs the price it does when you look at something like a Ford F-150 is because they build 1,000,000 of them a year. And, it's actually a great correlation to spacecraft. It's like usually the first F-150 of a new year doesn't actually work. And they build 100 of them to just have test vehicles. And they build 1,000 just to go drive around and see what's going to break. And like, that's actually really important. So getting volume, I think, is the thing the space industry is missing. And I hope to add to it by going into volume. Now, the nice thing about our spacecraft is how they stack. We can put them on a Starship. We can put them on a Falcon 9. I can put them on a New Glenn. I can put them on a Stoke rocket. I can put them on a Firefly. I actually don't give a shit what launch vehicle there is. I'm launch vehicle agnostic. I'm price sensitive. And so whatever one's going to give me the cheapest deal to go launch, strap it onto it, and we will dictate the number of spacecraft based on the number of detail. Obviously, I'm not going to fit the same number of spacecraft on a Stoke launch as I am on a Starship launch, but that's what it's going to come down to for me is who can give me the lowest price to go access the cosmos because I really am going to think of it as how do I revolutionize mining on Earth? Again, this isn't a play on how can space it's not a play on what technology enables me to make this happen? The technology is available today. It is a cost metric on how I make this the cheapest possible to take mining off world.
Looking out more into the future, you're very successful, you're very rich making, mining platinum. What does that mean for the space economy? And I ask specifically in the lens of, do you think there'll be an effect where it'll spur new business ideas? And if so, what do you think they are?
When we talk about the space economy as a whole, the magic in it is that we all have no fucking idea. Um, that's the honest truth. As we go through this, like if you would have told me we saw the same thing happen in software. If you would have told me in the 1980s, hey, software in 20 years, it's going to be all about social networks and taking pictures of what you eat and posting it on Facebook. And that's going to be the biggest company. I'd have been like, what are you talking about? Like we write in basic, like what does this mean? So what is going to happen? I'm a terrible predictor of the future. I'm going to try to create the future I want to see happen. Um, and I want to see us preserve the planet we're sitting on today. And I also hope that means we can expand in the future and go to other places. And I hope that will lead to it. I hope that in space resource utilization becomes a thing and that I could sell into that market. I really hope that happens. But today the market is zero. So I can't, apply whatever growth rate you want to zero, it's still zero. I need to wait till that first iteration happens, and I'm not going to be the one that starts that. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not going to look at, can I build a habitat on the moon? Can I, build a space colony? Like, those aren't things that I'm dedicated to right now. The future I wanna build is protecting the planet,
Mhm.
and I hope to also build a future where I can protect other planets, whether we go to Mars or whether we start our own.
And you're doing that with a business idea, I should say, that already has an existing market. And I think that's one of the key things in the space economy today is find something that has an existing market.
And a big fucking market, right? Not a small one. Like, that's the trick. You gotta have a big market to go after where you can really dominate that market and create a technological inflection point. That means the margin that we can derive on mining is so much higher than anybody else. We just drive everybody else out of business. So I'll say it differently. Instead of creating a new market, I hope to destroy the one on Earth in the next 20 years.
I love it. And my final question for you, what's one company you wish to see exist today, whether it's software, hardware, space, not space, if you've ever thought about one?
I'll tell you a product I wished existed, which I don't know if it's ever going to exist, but I love the concept of it. I would really love to have a humanoid that works. Not the ones that I see videos of today that are like, "Oh, it can change your laundry," and it kinda looks all janky and shit and, like, pulls it out, you know what I mean? Like, I essentially want to have, like, a butler that is just a robot. I want that. I want Damosel or whatever from, Foundation, like, I want that, but that doesn't kill me or doesn't try to fuck my shit up, right? Just does the work for me. That's what I want.
And it's gonna have a lot of platinum in it, right?
I mean, hopefully, because then I can make more money, right? Like, but that's what I wanna see.
There you go. I love it. Well, this is the most real person in the space industry. It's been one of my favorite conversations, also in this beautiful podcast studio.
I'm glad you called it a beautiful studio. It's literally like $1.99 carpet and some Amazon wall tiles.
No, this is one of the best recordings I've done. So thank you, Matt. I look forward to Vestry. Look forward to all the missions beyond that, and I look forward to Armageddon 2 or Deep Impact 2.
Amazing. Thanks
And
for the time.
yeah, thanks, Matt.